For everything, the Bible says there is time and season. And indeed, this is not just mere coincidence, but a prophetic fulfillment of what has been predestined to happen regarding the pursuit for the independent state of Biafra. The leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, Nnamdi Kanu, recently, about a few days ago, petitioned the US, United Nations, Europe, African Union, and several of the missions in Nigeria over his illegal and unlawful detention. And eventually, as if that was not enough, the American veterans of Igbo descent have petitioned J. Donald Trump over the continual detention, unlawful detention of the leader of the indigenous people of Nnamdi Kanu, and the unjust and unfair justice being meted to him. Who are these American veterans? American veterans are people who have served in active armed forces. You could be military, you could be naval, you could be air or airspace, who has put in several years of service, recognized by the United States of America, by the Washington D.C. So these people are revered and held in high esteem. America doesn't joke with them. Whatever affects them definitely affects the White House, affects American government, affects American defense headquarters. They don't joke with such people. Now, there's been several attempts by these American veterans of Igbo descent writing to the government of Nigeria, Ahmed Bola Tinubu, even while Buhari was still around, demanding for the unconditional release of Nnamdi Kanu. That Nnamdi Kanu does not deserve to be incarcerated indefinitely under DSS dungeon. That he have done no wrong, as the Nigerian Appellate Court of Law, the appeal court, affirmed his innocency on the 13th of October 2022. But the Nigerian government failed in defiance to the provision or the ruling of the court, continuing his indefinite trial and detention, which is considered under the law as illegal. Now, Nnamdi Kanu has made a very pragmatic step, well-articulated move, now being backed up by other heavyweights in the U.S. matters. Now, they have petitioned Donald Trump over this matter, and eventually the petition must have been presented at the table of Donald Trump. This definitely will cost Donald Trump sleepless nights. Yes, at his stance now, Donald Trump should be brooding over, of course, studying and reviewing those petitions at his stance now. Because on the 28th of August, the petition was written and was submitted through the Foreign Counsel to Nnamdi Kanu, Bruce friend. You can see now connecting the dots at this particular time is essential and crucial. This particular movement is prophetic and historical. And what do you expect from that? Of course, the world has been observing and watching But it is now time to act. And you know the implication of that. What were the demands? Of course, I will read an article, an excerpt from an article, and we will digest and discuss what were they able to pen down, what were their arguments, or the points they are driving home. Now, the matter of Nnamdi Kanu, Biafra agitation has been presented at the table of Mr. J. Donald Trump, the most powerful president in the world, from the most powerful country in the world, the most powerful and highest defender of human rights and freedom, the police of the world. So any person who might doubt what US can do in a matter like this could be underestimating the capability of the US government. Of course, of recent, you've seen the steps taken by the US government to put off the continued war that is going on between Ukraine and Russia. And you've seen the United States of America sanctioning a serving Chief of Justice, Attorney General and Chief of Justice of Venezuela, citing gross abuse and violations and arbitrary detention of an accused. So these are the positions of the US. Zero tolerance to judicial manipulations, of course, and subversion of justice. So they have zero tolerance to that. Now that the petition has been formally and officially written and presented, definitely the US government will review it. And they can't review it and keep quiet because they will determine to what extent has this right been violated. And that will definitely bring out positive results. Honestly, positive results, because the US command the police, the police of the world. Now, the American veterans of Igbo descent, alongside Rising Sun Charity Organization and Ambassador for Self-Determination, has petitioned the current US President, Donald Trump, urging him to invoke global Magnitsky sanctions on some Nigerian judges and former Attorney General of the Federation, Abubakar Malami, over their alleged role in the detention of the Biafra agitator, Nnamdi Kanu. Now, he went further. In the petition addressed to Mr. Trump on Friday and made available to journalists in Abuja, the groups accused the Nigerian judiciary of gross violation of human rights and complicity in what they describe as unlawful persecution of Kanu, who has remained in detention since his controversial rendition from Kenya in 2001. In 2001, they have remained in detention, and there is no court of law within the Nigerian legal jurisprudence that has been able to indict Nnamdi Kanu or establish any case levied against him. No court, even as it stands now, have been able to prove otherwise. That is why I say that this petition is heavier, is symbolic, is prophetic move at this particular time. Because it will definitely shake the foundations of the justice system, the criminal justice system within Nigeria. It will shake and revibrate the Nigerian judicial system and expose so many things before the international community. Now, what is this Magnitsky sanctions? What does that imply? Or law? That is another important issue we must iron out as far as this issue is concerned. What were the demands? That the US government should invoke the Magnitsky Convention on certain judges, including the former Attorney General, Abubakar Malami, who grossly violated the right of Nnamdi Kanu in the first instance, renditioning him and eventually subjecting him to endless trial after several torture for several days, and eventually he was flown down to Nigeria, blindfolded, and continued to be incarcerated within the DSS dungeon. These are their points. Of course, as they itemize this, it's quite interesting. The petition specifically named Justice Binta Murtala Inyako, Justice Hamza Simon Tsunami, Justice Hamal Balki, Justice Mohammed Lawal Garba, former Chief of Justice Ariola, and ex-Attorney General Malami as those who allegedly enabled arbitrary detention, extraordinary rendition, denied of fair trial rights, and suppression of free speech. Can you understand this? And when that law or sanction is being invoked, you know what that means? It implies that everyone involved are going to lose their assets. There will be visa ban and the freezing of their assets across the entire world, regardless of wherever they are. Whatever asset that is linked to these people will be forfeited, will be frozen. This convention or law empowers the United States of America to take such drastic measures as a deterrent to corrupt judicial system or process and subversion of justice. Yes, whatever proceeds or assets they have gathered linked to them or possibly to their close families might definitely be frozen, freezed. Both their accounts, whatever that represents them in this life, regardless of wherever it is, under the earth. It is not a function of it is cited in America and the rest of them. No. Whether it is with the US allies, wherever it is under the earth, will be frozen, will be freezed, and a visa ban will be placed. No movement for such people. It is quite interesting. And by this, definitely, that will serve as a deterrent to others who might want to be used or may want to subvert the cause of justice. The American veterans of Igbo descent maintain in the petition judges enjoy no immunity for gross violation of internationally recognized human rights, just as the Nazi judges were prosecuted for sham trials, and Russian judges, of course, have faced sanctions for arbitrary detention. Nigerian judges who endorse persecution must also be held accountable. The precedence has been set. So this shouldn't be the first time. If as powerful as Russia, their judges could be sanctioned, then what are you saying? What are you saying? Which means once this is being done, definitely others will sit up. He said for over 3 years, of course, Nigeria has openly defied the United Nations ruling, keeping Mazin Nnamdi Kanu in solitary confinement without trial. This is a direct affront to international law and a stain on Nigeria's judiciary. Chief Ugochukwu Nwosu, spokesman for Rising Sun Charity, said, that is quite interesting. Yes, Nigeria is a sovereign nation, but its sovereignty is not absolute. It's also subject to this Magnitsky Convention and laws. And this sanction could apply to the president, whether it is to the judiciary, whosoever is seen or indicted or perceived to be corrupt and have enjoyed the proceeds of this subversion of justice for monetary inducements or for political considerations. So it is quite an interesting development. Honestly, I think Mazi Nnamdi Kanu deserve justice? Of course, as every other woman, he deserves justice. And definitely what they are saying is that let justice be passed. Let justice be served. That is just the simple language that they can't continue to be watching. Why such gross violations is being sustained with such impunity? That is the argument. Offenses covered in this Magnitsky possibility of Magnitsky invoking the Magnitsky sanctions are human rights abuses. Do you get it? Which includes torture. Was Mazi Nnamdi Kanu tortured? Of course, for about 8 days or so, which he confessed he was bleeding, and the rest of them. Extrajudicial killings, which even the Supreme Court of Nigeria indicted the security operatives for invading Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's country home in a bid to possibly assassinate him or whatever be their intention. But Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was fortunate to have escaped. Severe deprivation of liberty, that fundamental human right, the freedom of expression. He said, I desire Biafra, self-determination. Is that his right? Protected under the law? Of course, the law is there. That people has the right to choose. And it's quite interesting. Enforced disappearances. Have that been witnessed? Of course, Amnesty International has revelations regarding these developments. Trafficking and other abuses involving physical harm or deprivation of basic freedoms. It could be as a result of corruption. corruption in the system, not necessarily monetary inducements or exploitation and the rest of it, include misappropriation of state assets, bribery investment, transfer of corrupt proceeds, and abuse of government contracts or resources. It is quite unfortunate, according to the claim from the DSS or so, that or the government that they are spending close to 500 million, not less than 500 million at every sitting. Nnamdi Kanu appears. You know what that means? That's unnecessary waste of hard resources that should have been gathered or channeled towards enhancing and developing, bettering the lot of humanity. But that is quite interesting. Whatever be the case, it is quite interesting. Now, the designation process, now coordinated by the U.S. Office of Foreign Asset Control in consultation with the Treasury, State, and Justice Departments. So, once designated, individuals or entity are added, of course, to the specially designated nationals list, and that will lead to asset confiscation. Asset confiscation. And there's no two ways about that. Yes, that is quite true. There's no two ways about that. So what does that imply? Definitely, Nnamdi Kanu will be getting his freedom in no distant time. With this hit and push, definitely something more interesting is about to happen. Because they can't make this law without defending it. You know, the United Nations have written their position asking the Nigerian government to release Nnamdi Kanu. And yet, in defiance to those rulings, the Nigerian government continue the indefinite detention of Nnamdi Kanu. Hopefully, this process will lead to the cause of justice and recovery of Nnamdi Kanu's freedom.